Yes, so this is it. Security Managed Service Provider, in brackets MSP, Data Protection as a Service Provider, and Digital Consulting Company. The company is incorporated in Kenya under the Companies Act of 2015. And below that, you'll see that you have our mission, vision, and core values. So what's our mission at Southend? At Southend, we strive to ensure that we secure information, technology, and data services in a safe cyberspace. Our vision is a data protection and cybersecurity and IT solutions provider of choice in a safe cyberspace for businesses. Our core values as Southend Tech is teamwork, respect, innovation, and passion. I believe that with these values, we can coexist in this tech space and make sure that you have a data privacy and safe cyberspace. So Southend has an amazing working partnership with global IT hardware and software vendor services and top professional cybersecurity solutions providers such as Kaspersky, who are our major partners, and which is also the leading cybersecurity vendor in Europe and the 5th largest globally. We commit to working with you as an equal partner, delivering personalized services that translate your information technology needs, cybersecurity challenges, data protection, and digital problems into solutions in a secure manner for enhanced efficiency, effectiveness, and value for money. So our services, as I had mentioned before, I'll just reiterate once more. We deal with managed IT services. You'll be asking yourself, what is managed IT services? Managed IT services include offering solutions that relate to your mobile devices, network design and installation, such as Wi-Fi and all that, IT infrastructure design, migration and relocation services, IT hardware and software procurement and modernization, printers and photocopy maintenance services, managed IT, help desk services. There are so many, the list is endless. Yeah, you can check that on our website, which is will be shared with you in the course of the presentation. We also offer managed IT services and computer labs for schools, and it includes setting up computer laboratories for schools, ICT support services for schools and colleges, VSAT, Wi-Fi installation and maintenance for schools, etc., etc. We also offer cybersecurity solutions. Maybe you'd be asking yourself, what is cybersecurity solutions? It refers to giving you products that protect your devices from cybercrime and all that, such as anti-malware, software, or applications. Then you also have data protection as a service. That is the department that I head. And what we do as a data protection as a service department is we offer capacity building on data protection. We also offer data protection training clinics, data protection officer as a service, because you've heard many times people are outsourcing services over DPO, or you can also opt to employ an in-house DPO. So it's up to the management to decide which way to go, but we will encourage you to outsource services from Southend Tech. Fourth, we have data protection. We have digital. Actually, the fifth service is digital consulting, which is in regards to ICT consultancy services for businesses, including system developments, e-government solutions, and digital strategy development, among others. Far from that, I'm going to take you through just a brief introduction of what data governance is, and we've had a lot of, let's say, I'm going to use memes for this today, and I think we will relate to this more than. So we've had data. Everyone is talking about data. Data everywhere. There's data you share data when you go to a hospital. You share data when you enter any building. You have to give your details to a security guard. And what is this data, and why is everyone so interested about it? We even have data in the cloud right now as a place of storing data. So in today's business, everyone is interested in data. And in today's business environment, there's a definite awareness that data needs to be managed and governed. A 21st century organization needs to manage data as an asset, and most organizations believe they are on the data-driven trajectory, and most are really headed in the wrong direction. We will get to know why and why I'm saying so. Then I believe you've heard, or most of us have seen this meme. So you don't want to invest in quality data, but you want to be data-driven as a business. What do we say about that? This is what I have to say. One does not simply ignore data governance. You have to have it embedded in your day-to-day activities in your business. How do you manage your customer data? How do you use it to generate business and all that? So with the current state of affairs regarding data, organization must establish a structure for data stewardship as part of data governance, so that those who are working with data understand the importance of their role and ensure that data are accurate and reliable. It might seem impossible to successfully govern all the data across an entity, either corporate or non-corporate, for a business to be successful. However, when you have mature data governance programs focusing on critical data elements, an organization can leverage on that data as an asset in the digital economy. And here it is. My question is, we've all heard about data governance and you keep using the same word, but I don't think it means what sometimes we interpret it to be. Myself, I cannot say I'm 100% sure of what data governance is, because when you go to different institutions carrying on different functions and activities, then what's data governance in in a production entity or a company or a manufacturing company will not be the same thing as what data governance will be in a learning institution. So our speaker is going to answer most of those questions. But for now, this is the most I could do to get at least a proper definition of what data governance is. So when you look at the data management body of knowledge, this is what it defines data governance as: the exercise of authority, control, and shared decision making, which in bracket includes planning, monitoring, and enforcement over the management of data assets. And then we come to the key elements of what data governance actually is about. And one, we have data quality, we have data classification, we have data principles, we have data access, we have data lifecycle, and we have the data users. This is actually the whole picture of what really data governance is all about. And all those questions will be answered as we go by. So, but a brief snippet on what all those 6 elements are about. When you look at data principles, it talks of transparency. Transparency in what manner and in what way? I'm a data subject. I've given you my data. What do you do with that data? I need to know. That's why we need to give the purpose or the why of you as or maybe a data controller having my data. Then we also look at accountability. When we refer to accountability, especially in situation of as a data controller or a data processor, you have to assure the data subject that your data is going to be safe with us. In case of a breach, we will be responsible for that breach. Then look at standardization. Standardization has several elements to it, and it goes to how do you classify the data in a situation where you have geological data and all that. Geolocation, sorry. Then you look at data classification, which is falls under health data, geolocation data, and financial data. You have to classify data as an institution for you to identify how it's going to be used and how it's going to be stored and everything. Then looking at the data life cycle, we have the processing. The first stage of data collection is processing. Then you transit this, you transport, or maybe you move it to another place. Data in transit, how do you go about that? Then there's data storage. Do you store the data in on-premise or in cloud, or whichever way you store your data as an organization? Then we have data users. The data users are controllers, most probably in most instances. And we have public and private institutions that use this data. They also have to be accountable to a data subject. The fifth key principle or foundational principle is data access. When someone wants to access their data, let's say a data subject, you have to authenticate if actually this is the owner of this data. They have to prove. Then you have authorization. Are they the authorized person? So when you look at data access, it looks at the access right of a data subject. In what sense? That as a right, digital data protection as a right to an individual, then you cannot disclose this information to a party that is not to a third party that is not privy to the contract between the data controller and the data subject. And that's why the CIA principle come in, which talks about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And the third N is about non-repudiation. Like, you cannot go back and change the statement that you said about your data as an individual. That's why it should be like very authentic and correct as per the records. And the sixth key foundational principle or element is data quality. This data should be accurate, well managed, and properly maintained by the data controller. So, as we start this conversation on data governance, it would be important for me to introduce our speaker of the day. This is Jose, and this is a brief profile about Jose. Jose is a data governance expert with over 20 years experience in data management, and that has been like his career for the past 20 years. He has focused mainly in the areas of data governance, data quality, master data management, and data strategy. With experience in projects in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and across Africa, a wide range of realities and different clients and industries, enabling organizations across the world to proactively manage their data assets and to address their challenges and gain more value from their data. So that was the brief introduction, but let's get now into the details, of which I'm going to hand over the rest of this presentation and webinar to Jose. Welcome, Jose.
Thank you, Cynthia. Yeah, that was a great introduction to what data governance is. I'll try not to get too technical during this presentation, because I think we should focus more on the business benefits of having a proper data governance framework. Because the technical parts and the components is something that is easily accessed by everybody. So I'll try and give a not so much that technical perspective, but mostly the business perspective of data governance. So I think to record now. Okay. So, good afternoon to all. Well, first of all, let me thank Southend and Josh and Cynthia for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be able to share some of my ideas about the areas where I work with, and so I want to thank you all for sparing your time to discuss the importance of data governance in the context of every time kind of organization. So I hope that within this next hour I can in some way help you to recognize the importance of creating the conditions to enable data to leverage and extract value from within an organization. So it's very common to hear say that data is the new oil. Although we might all agree with this, but not all of us in the same sense. And surely it's a very valuable resource. But like oil, if unrefined, it cannot really be used. So the same way oil needs to be transformed into gas, plastic, chemicals to be able to create a valuable entity that drives some profitable activity. Data also needs to be transformed, refined to be able to create true value. So for instance, we don't expect our car to run if we fill the tank with raw crude, or even if, well, even worse, if we fill it with some kind of substance that looks like fuel, not knowing exactly what it is. So we have the same problem. The same happens with data. We can't expect reliable results from our analytic reports or AI, or unless we can assume that the data that is being used has the necessary qualities to produce the desired results. So when I started working a few years ago, we frequently use the expression garbage in, garbage out. But things have changed since then, and the informational ecosystems in every organization are more and more complex, with the data flowing across the organization more easily and in ways much harder to control. So garbage in, garbage out doesn't reflect the reality anymore. So at the stage we are, I think we must say garbage in, garbage everywhere. And I believe that because of this, the importance of data, there's no substantial difference in the outcome of a good decision made with bad data and a bad decision with good data. So inevitably, data produces bad data. Bad data produces bad data. That's it. That's the point. Data that will impair the business decision processes in any organization, thus affecting its results, its efficiency, and even its competitiveness. So creating the conditions so that the right information is available at the right time to the right people will enable an organization to gain the insights for better business decisions. And this is the critical point, to increase the efficiency and the productivity, and to promote a consistent and effective use of data across all organizations. So, and all of these are essential to create the necessary competitive edge that when facing incredibly competitive markets as we are now. So the ultimate objective for this session is to highlight the importance of having good data in the business decision processes. As we can see from this slide, data pervades every function within an organization, from the customer onboarding to regulatory compliance, from AML procedures to risk models, everything from personal data to sensor data. So having a solid data strategy is at the core of every successful digital transformation, as that data is at the heart of every business. So data, in a way, is the fuel for every digital strategy. So, and as data volumes and complexity are growing exponentially, more data is coming from sources external to the organizations. Data spreads across on premises and cloud locations. There are critical challenges to address when data becomes increasingly hard to manage and to govern. Securing the proper structure, the quality, and the business context of data, and making it discoverable and usable across the organization is critical. So, in a way, the foundation of any digital strategy or transformation is, in fact, the proper data management. And the underpin of any digital transformation lays on trust and on understanding data, which can only be enabled through effective data quality and governance. In a recent study, in a recent a global C-suite executive survey on digital transformation, it was clear that that data is commonly identified as one of the main causes for hampering the organization's ability to realize benefits from their digital initiatives. And although technologies like big data, cloud drives, or IoT have increased the availability of data and the adoption of AI has improved the capabilities for automation and data processing, extracting value from data is still a challenge for almost every organization. So in this session, we'll focus on two of these challenges that are fully dependent on how data is managed. Let's focus on the incomplete or poor quality data and the lack of available data. The quality and the availability of data are the two of the key issues to address if you want to create the conditions to enable the capability to deliver reliable and timely data and make sure it is available at the right time to the right people. Well, more than ever, data is in fact at the core the core asset for every organization, for every industry. So it is critical that every organization can answer questions about its data, such as these that I have here. Where is it stored? What is business critical? What is duplicate or obsolete? What is sensitive and needs to be protected? Who uses it? Who has access to it or owns it? What is subject to any regulatory or privacy norms? What in fact should be kept and what can be deleted? And as an organization's data grows in volume and complexity, answering these questions becomes an ever-increasing challenge. And in some way, this incomplete view of an organization's data is a reason that what makes so difficult to manage and to derive value from it. On the other hand, if you have a clear view, it will allow you to identify what is useful to the business, and this I think is the most important of all. So, having a deficient knowledge of an organization's data brings with it all the perverse effects of bad quality data, unknown data, or even dark data. And an organization that fails to efficiently manage its data, which now everybody considers its most valuable asset, is exposed to a number of risks and costs, as data initially seen as a business asset can easily become a business liability. And we're talking about costs associated with regulatory fines for failing to comply with personal or regulated industry data norms or regulatory requests. We're talking about security risks associated with theft, with illicit access to data, or even malicious use of data. Also talking about reputation risks that are associated with the misuse or even disclosure of data that shouldn't be disclosed, and also talking about infrastructure costs that are associated with the storage of duplicate, obsolete data, or data that has no kind of business value, and also efficiency costs that are associated with difficulties that users have to quickly access and work the information they need when they need it, and having the necessary quality. So, and these are but a few of the negative impacts that can occur. But most importantly, uh, not knowing your data directly impacts business, impairing the decision processes, making hard to make some timely decisions based on reliable and timely insights. So organizations need to start systematically accessing their data repositories to understand who owns the data, where is it located, its size, how it relates to business. And this will allow organizations to gain control of over their data and efficiently derive business value from data. So in a way, knowing your data is being able to efficiently manage it. It will allow organizations to mitigate any regulatory or security risks. It will reduce storage costs. It will reduce the complexity of the data ecosystem itself. It will increase the efficiency and the effectiveness of data usage. And it will act as an enabler for more innovative usage of data. But more importantly, it will make organizations, it will help them gain the competitiveness by a more efficient use of data and a substantial improvement of their decision processes. So in a way, knowing your data means that an organization is enabled to govern its data efficiently and use it to drive deeper business insights. Sorry. So, in a way, I understand that data governance may not seem to be the highest priority, but I think it's the time to address issues that have always been there in every kind of organization of any size. And we're talking about the gap between business and IT that leads often to some contradictory strategies. We're talking about the difficulty in managing a very siloed data ecosystem. We're talking about the difficulty to identify and define data across sources, the lack of standard business and data management rules, and even data protection policies. The data security concerns around providing employees with remote access to data, and this is an issue that was raised mostly in the last 2 years. The difficulty to identify, cleanse, standardize, and properly curate data to be shared, and also the existence of duplicate, erroneous, inaccurate, incomplete data. So, and all these issues have one thing in common: it's data. From day one, data is being created, it's being compiled, collected, stored, and distributed across the organization. This data is present in all of the organization's processes, from risk to regulatory compliance, even to every routine operation. And organizations are in a way investing heavily in leveraging these the new technologies like AI, machine learning, Internet of Things, the augmented and predictive analytics. That all of these rely on data, and they're fully dependent on the data that you have, and all are aimed to provide quality insights, and quality data is essential to feed them. Okay, to enable them to improve the insights and to drive some substantiated business decisions. So how do we how do we turn data into some useful, insightful, and in fact actionable information. And as the business landscape is rapidly evolving with the emergence of all these new business innovations, new business models, new forms of competition in a way that are catalyzed by the huge advances in digitization and analytics and all those new technologies. The availability of quality data is more than ever a critical requirement. So data is an essential component of the interaction with customers, with partners, with every key stakeholder within the organization. So it, in a way, it is a critical and strategic asset for any organization, making it essential that the right information, again, is available to at the right time to the right people, so that the organization can compete and win in this emerging data-driven economy. In that way, poor quality data has a tangible financial performance, reputation impact, and organizations cannot afford to manage it arbitrarily. Data, again, can easily turn from being a data asset into a business asset, into a business liability. And for some organizations, this can be the difference between surviving or not. So why data governance? Why is it so important? In a way, it's kind of a paradox, because we see organizations struggling to collect as much data as possible, and we see infrastructure, storage, processing, and analysis investments increasing every day, and at the same time, we witness that the quality of the analysis and the insights is in fact decreasing. And some of the causes for this are not related to the technology, to analytics by itself, to system, or even to infrastructure problems, but to what feeds those technologies, data. So when we look at some of the problems that are frequently faced with business data analysis, and we see solutions that are unable to provide some new, some timely, or even accurate insights, it's easy to relate this with the quality of data that is being fed into the systems. The data that is not enough to generate new insights, data sources that are not integrated, data that is not available on time, data that has defects, errors, that is missing, or it's incomplete, that data that it's not adequate to a given business case, data that belongs to some rogue data sets that someone created, data that can't be traced to any source, or data that is generated by undocumented transformations, etc. So data is the biggest challenge when employing these new technologies, and the impact of having data-driven decisions is larger now than ever before. So data governance and data quality play critical roles in these processes. And prior to any investment on analytics, data governance, and quality strategies, data governance and quality strategies must be put in place to support and assure the return on this investment. In a way, sorry.
Okay, Joseph, before you continue, just a question.
Yes.
A question on all these elements that you've touched on. Where do we place this? Does this relate to data quality or does it relate to data maturity so that we have a clear overview of either of the two?
Mm. Well, in fact, data quality and governance are in fact very closely related. In the diagram that you showed before, that have the various elements of data management, I think governance and data quality are the two that relate more closely. Okay, because without and I've seen this with data quality projects that are not supported by any data governance framework or policy. Usually they don't get the expected results. And why? Because it's through data governance that we can clearly have an idea of, first of all, what defines the quality of data. And we're talking about basically, and because the only purpose of data within our organization is to generate business value, without governance, it's very hard to understand what is quality data, what rules should be applied to that data, what are the acceptable levels of quality, where it is being used or not. So addressing data quality without that, let's say that background of data governance usually doesn't provide the results that we expect from them. I don't know if this answered your question.
Yes, it has answered my question. However, the question was relating to with these elements. Let's say an organization has achieved all this. For instance, they can provide data on time. They know where their data is stored. They know who should assess this data. Do we say that an organization or let's say a corporation will have attained something we call data maturity? And how do we measure it? Can we use these stipulations to measure data maturity?
Okay. Well, and there are several different models for measuring data maturity, but of course the capability you have to control the data you have, knowing exactly where it is, who accesses that data, what kind of business processes use that data, what data flows that you have. So the more of these elements you have, the bigger or the higher you'll be on a data maturity level model. Okay, but there are at least, I don't know, some 5 or 6 different models with different criteria. But yes, these are, I think, the essential and what should invest if you want to increase the data maturity within an organization.
Okay, thank you. That is well answered.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, owning and trusting the data you have are two completely different things. And with the amounts of data available getting bigger and bigger, however, we will have more and more data that is not suitable or even trustable enough to make business critical decisions with. So in a way, this lack of trust in data has a twofold impact. It either inhibits the decision making itself, or even worse, it will induce decisions that are based on false assumptions. And this can only be solved by developing the strategies to address the existing and the ongoing issues, and implementing an effective methodology to execute that on that strategy. And the data governance program and structure, covering all the people, processes, the technologies needed to manage and protect the organization's data asset, and to ensure some understandable, correct, complete, reliable, and secure and discoverable data across all the organization. It's also, as I was saying before, it's completed or complemented in a way by also a data quality framework that includes the data quality discovery, the remediation cycles, and the monitoring the quality of data based on the data governance defined rules, will help organizations to approach these issues and make sure that they have the success they want for their analytics initiatives, and also to increase the trust that people have in their data. And this approach that also allows that in some way those data related processes within the organization are performed in let's say a more agile and scalable way, in a way reducing the siloed approach and all the manual interactions that are usually a part of any analytical process. Again, I think, well, the one of the main points is that in fact organizations need to have a very clear stand on safeguarding this asset, this corporate asset, their data, and the goal of data governance is to ensure that the organization's business objectives are accomplished by guaranteeing that data is available as needed for business purpose, but also secure the private and the compliance, the privacy and the compliance with all the regulatory requirements. Well, there is no one size fits all approach to data governance, and implementing good data governance it's always a challenge, and this is why so many of these programs end up failing. And because, going back to the goal, an organization must know and trust the data on which it relies. And the fact is, data is supporting business. And knowing the data means that you need to have a governance program and an intended data strategy. And also trusting data means that validating and monitoring the quality and the state when it is applied to those business processes. Okay, and this is also very important. We're not talking about technical processes or whatever. We're talking about business processes, because again, the purpose of data is to serve business. On the other hand, this is also the only way that organizations have to mitigate any regulatory compliance risks in a way to engage all with our customers, the partners, the stakeholders, and to optimize the results of those key business initiatives, and to be able to apply those analytics and support the business decision processes and a long-term strategy. So ensuring that the data strategy, for which governance is one of the tools, supports the businesses, most of all the responsibility of senior management. And the failure to provide this leadership and giving direction will probably make all the data initiatives hostage of tactical objectives within the organization. And possibly that's where the problem starts when the data governance programs are so challenging, because mostly the causes that are pointed to for failure are always related with the lack of leadership, with their lack of buy-in or commitment, but also in a way with the lack of alignment with the business goals, and also, and that was why I was talking before about those tactical objectives within the organization, is that we don't have that cross-organization involvement that is critical for this. Okay. So this leads us to what I believe are the most critical success factors for any data governance initiative. Is that data governance is established, let's say, top down, but it will develop bottom up, and that is for sure. So in a data-driven economy as we have now, CEOs and the executive leadership must promote an organization's data strategy into the business and out of the IT context. Because as any other asset, data's purpose is to create business value. So any data strategy or initiative must be very clearly oriented towards the organization's strategic priorities and key business objectives. Business objectives that must drive the development of data strategy, focus on the use cases that support business objectives. So creating the traction and increasing the awareness across the organization that will end up acting as a motor from within the organization for data governance structure to grow, let's say, in a very organic way. Also, data governance is is a fundamental part of business, not a set of technological projects. So the development of the data strategy cannot depend on the limited resources and throughput of IT. So business users must be enabled to a data management approach where they can improve and control the quality of data and address and mitigate the problems themselves. I usually say that project graveyards are cluttered with stalled data governance projects that did not deliver a clear return on investment. Without that strong leadership factor and without a clear business focus, every kind of data initiative, not just governance, or on the contrary, having this leadership and this business focus, almost every kind of data initiative will pay for themselves, because they are adding real value to the business initiatives that are associated with them. So what can we expect when we don't have any kind of data governance in place, or when what we try to do is not working? First of all, how to manage and use the available data. So again, organizations have been accumulating larger and larger volumes of data with every kind of source, every kind of format. So most of that data is being produced and gathered from ad hoc initiatives without any alignment with the business goals or the business strategy. Okay, and this is one of the points where data governance is critical, to make this, to act as a glue between these two perspectives. On the other hand, data availability. So, having the risk of repeating myself, it's the capability of making the right data available to the right person at the right time. And at this moment, this is more than ever a competitive advantage. Okay, and it's impossible within any organization without the full alignment of the needs of every data stakeholder. And then this is where also governance plays an important part. Poor quality data. Okay, so when we have multiple systems, each one of them with very different rules and policies, with different quality assurance mechanisms, data that ends up being used in multiple analytical systems, we end up distributing data of poor, or even worse, unknown quality across the organization. So, and this impacts both the operation and also at the end, every single decision process. And because of this, we also have, as one of the impacts of bad decisions, okay? Because an organization's decision process, it always depends on the quality and the reliability of their data. Okay, so not having good data will necessarily impact the business negatively, most of the times with financial repercussions. And it's not just the output or the information that is feeding these decisions. It's also a question of the trust of the data that is being used, and it's very frequent that when faced with the data and the decision, most of the times ends up being against data because the people making the decisions don't trust the data. Okay. It also impacts on the productivity. Because in a way data is useless if it can't be found in a timely and efficient manner, and this will impact directly on the productivity of workers that need to access multiple systems and spend a huge part of their time trying to gather and consolidate information if and when they find it. Okay. Also, we have the problem of data breaches, because when being unable to control what data exists within the organization, where is it located, who accesses it, will obviously increase the security risks. And finally, so the compliance costs, in a way, related with the previous, also with the security of data, but also not being able to know exactly what data you have, where it is, what's the quality of it, will usually, and people with experience with regulatory reporting will know that most of the times there's always a few Excel sheets on the process, and some transformations that only a few people know how to do with a lot of manual work. So this is one of the areas also where, beginning with the data governance, we can build into better compliance reports. So from this, and this is not an exhaustive list, it's easy to conclude that those failures in data governance have a direct impact on business performance. They have financial costs that in some situations can be easily accessed. So in a way, not having an efficient data governance framework in an organization ends up creating, let's say, a blind spot, and most of the organizations are working in if not one, several blind spots, creating and leaving room for the unknown in dealing with one of their most critical assets. So why does it fail so often? So unfortunately, although the awareness of the importance of all this exists, and everybody is very conscious of it, most organizations are still very slow adopters of data governance frameworks, with all the risks that we saw associated with it. And some of the reasons behind this slow adoption are easy to understand in a way, as the implementation of a data governance framework can sometimes be an overwhelming challenge, and also something very disruptive and very prone to failure. I'll emphasize here the 7 most likely causes for these failures, but also 7 signs that when when you're trying to implement a data governance framework, something needs to be changed so that it can get back on track. First of all, as I've mentioned before, the lack of leadership buy-in and commitment. Data governance it's a complex process, and it needs buy-in from every level within an organization, and it starts with a very strong executive sponsorship, but it also needs the buy-in from every other stakeholder in the organization, which need to be aligned and need to be committed to the problem. Otherwise, the data governance program will be constantly stumbling into resistant pouches within the organization. One of the other reasons is the lack of alignment with those business goals and benefits. In any kind of, and I never get tired of saying this, any kind of data initiative, no matter the end, I think there's a principle that needs to be respected and needs to be seen as also as a goal, that data exists to serve the business. And this means that any data governance process must be supported, again, on a very strong business case. The objectives of data governance need to be anchored on business objectives. Otherwise, it will always be seen as a kind of siloed IT project, sometimes like a vanity project, with no kind of perceived value from the business side. And this is also very, very critical. On the other hand, and this varies depending on the model that or the framework that you're trying to implement, is the lack of empowerment for the data governance team. In a way, data governance will affect every single area in the organization, and sometimes, frequently, it affects the balance of power within those areas in the organization. And added, if you have a specific structure for data governance, with an introduction of a new element within this ecosystem, let's say, the data governance team. So again, the lack of executive support and sometimes weak change management practices will result in having a data governance team that it simply is not capable of performing any of its work, due against to some organizational resistance. The lack of focus on strategic data. Well, at an operational level, most organizations rely on dozens of different systems. Some of them handling massive volumes of data of every kind and typology daily. So approaching data from a global, holistic perspective will inevitably lead to a lack of focus that will result on a misalignment with the business objectives and with an incapability to deliver value. So again, being supported on a strong business case that identifies and prioritizes business critical and strategical data is paramount for success. So knowing exactly what you need business wise, because there's always a lot of data that ends up having no business value, and there's always a lot of resources being put on handling that data that are simply being put to waste, and that will never have any visible result in terms of the business. Lack of cross-organization involvement. Well, as I mentioned above, data governance is a process that needs buy-in from every single level of an area within an organization, and usually failing to transmit in a clear way the objectives and the benefits of data governance will inevitably lead to this lack of commitment and involvement, leading also to sometimes the people just, and I've heard it personally with people from the business side, involved in data governance projects that they can't perform that data governance related tasks because they have work to do. So it's important to state exactly what are the objectives of these processes, what are the benefits that come from data governance. The focus on a technological approach. Okay, technology itself won't govern data. And technology is only one of the components that supports a data governance program. And often it proves useless when seen as an end in itself, to create, so have some magnificent tools to handle data governance. So it will most likely fail if it's not a leverage on the remaining components of these kind of processes. And finally, the time to deliver results. When we look at the characteristics of a data governance program implementation, some are very easily to identify. We're talking about sometimes expensive initiatives that are very time and resource consuming, that usually span through a very long time frames. They take a lot of time to deliver any return. So in a way, it's hard, even if you have a very strong sponsorship, to keep the necessary traction to complete all the necessary changes in the process. So how do we tackle this? Okay. So in the last decades, I think, all the regulatory compliance requirements, all the industry standards that we have, puts a lot of pressure on how the data is used and how it exists, and all the requirements that I need to all the information that you need to select, to give to the regulators. All of that it's putting a huge pressure there on every organization, and as Cynthia was mentioning before, we have now all the data protection processes ongoing. So in a way, to be able to comply with all these sometimes very, very comprehensive regulatory challenges and changes every time, governance plays I think a major role. Okay, and in this context, the quality data that is provided through an effective data governance and data quality frameworks also gives you are the essential tools to achieve an effective compliance process, ensuring that not only those reports are accurate, but also that we can improve business decisions based on that. So again, looking at this, it's no one has any doubt that that bad data will increase the costs within the organization, either their compliance costs or even business costs, and will also reduce the revenue. So unless all of this is addressed in a proactive way, it is impacting each of the organizations at this very moment. So I believe there are some straight actions that can be taken immediately to push your organization to move in the right direction. Okay, one of these is to create awareness. The awareness of data is the most critical asset for an organization. It's a concept that keeps growing and people are more and more familiar with. But the results are not follow or will not follow despite the very large investments that are made to manage this growing of data. So most of our organizations are still unable to retrieve any meaningful insights that will enable them to take the advantage and the potential created by all this data. So creating within the organization an environment that where the importance of data is recognized across all the organization, and where the acceptance of data quality problems is accepted and handled, and handling data also as an asset is in fact a priority. And talking about priority, one of the other things that needs to be changed is to create some prioritization of how data is handled. Okay, in a way, first of all, identifying business drivers that give a boost to any kind of data initiative. So it's again essential that the connection between data and its impact on business are always very clear for everybody. Bad data will impact business in many ways. It either affecting the management confidence in the organization's data. It will result in missed opportunities by losing the capability to derive insights that can lead to competitive advantages. It leads to lost revenue in many ways, often resulting in reputational costs or even undermining some efforts to improve customer experience. So, and again, as I started this slide, one of the important and somehow, let's say, a foot in the door when we want to implement this kind of processes is regulatory compliance. So it's easily seen as a good business driver for this kind of initiatives. So having this regulatory framework that keeps growing, it's not unusual to see even in bigger organizations asking for longer time frames to prepare for each new directive. So seemingly, it's in a way incredible how sometimes these mature data-driven organizations end up struggling to supply some accurate data. And this is true for organizations of every size, trying to manage those internal and external requirements for data while maintaining this siloed structure that has grown since the company's inception. So even when these initiatives that are related with compliance are regarded as a necessary evil, they end up helping to create this awareness and to help to focus on what data is in fact critical. So we can see compliance as an opportunity to establish some data governance framework, allowing them, in one hand, to comply and to accelerate those deliverables they need for the compliance directives, but also to create some kind of dynamic from within. So this is a sentence I use often: is data-driven business means business-driven data. Because in fact, from my perspective, none of this is about data. It's all about business. So business is in fact the driver, and the data and what data produces is not, in a way, it's no more than an enabler for the business results that we want. So in a way, the success of any data-related initiative, being governance or even analytics or whatever, must be measured on how it impacts business performance. Okay, it's measured on how it impacts the customer and the experience and loyalty. It's measured on how it impacts your offer and innovation. It's measured on how it impacts your operations efficiency. It's measured on how it impacts processes, how it minimizes inefficiencies, how it reduces costs, and also how it's also measure of how it impacts your risk and compliance. So end of the day, the true measure of this success is the quality of the organization's decision processes, and today organizations that are best able to make the best insight-driven decisions and faster will gain that competitive edge. So the transformation process that leads to a data-driven organization must again be supported on that business strategy and those business objectives. So the definition and implementation of a data governance framework with a clear roadmap of initiatives is a critical step, allowing the organization to move from a tactical to a strategic approach to data governance. And an effective data governance program must start top-down and develop bottom-up. Its success depends on finding the efficient combination of people, process, and technology. So, how can these challenges be overcome, and how can the benefits of properly governed data can be turned into those actionable insights that will feed the corporate decision processes and be turned into better decisions? Data governance is about people, processes, and technology. It's about combining these factors to create business value from data. And as any process that is introduced into an organization, it will create some disruption of the status quo. It will generate resistance to any kind of changes. So let's say a successful approach to data must be able to overcome all of these challenges that I mentioned before. it's quite easy to find on the market some good data governance frameworks, frameworks that have been tested and have been refined over time. Unfortunately, the value that these frameworks, it doesn't make them easier to implement, and I believe that this is the first problem: implementing the framework. Okay, there are no two organizations alike, so instead of implementing a data governance framework, this might seem semantic, but I think the drive should be on adopting and adapting a data governance framework. Okay, as a good friend of mine usually says, set the framework in a frame that works. So it is the uniqueness of each organization that challenges the framework implementations, that they are somehow or sometimes seen as a one-size-fits-all solution. And when this happens, they will most likely fall short of its outcomes. That is why it's so important for each organization to define its own path. Okay, data governance framework is not a blueprint. It must work as a roadmap that is constantly being reviewed and adapted. So let's say start by looking at data from a business, not a technical perspective. Okay, again, data's purpose is to create business value. So a strategy towards effective data management or data governance, sorry, must be oriented towards the organization's strategic priorities and business objectives. These business priorities should be the priorities for any data governance program, and from here it is possible to identify how data may be used to deliver those priorities and objectives. And let's say that these will be our business cases, not use cases, but business cases that will define a clear roadmap for data governance. In an early stage, for effectiveness purposes, there should be no more than 5 or 6 of these cases, all with clear, achievable business objectives, and that are close to the stakeholders that are aware of the importance and impact of data in their business processes. So starting with small targeted initiatives where the impact of and value of data can be clearly identified, working with those business stakeholders that can say passionately and effectively articulate the value of data governance in their business processes, and that will be eager to defend it. So, on the other hand, trying to apply an agile development mindset to all this process, starting with that minimum viable solution and iterating, will allow those visible results to be presented in some short time lapses, solving some of the issues that I've mentioned before. As any process that involves change within our organization, again, what I believe are the critical principles for the success of these initiatives. Okay. I think one of the critical points, besides what I've all the difficulties that I've mentioned before, is definitely to go for an approach that is more focused, interactive, business centric, where it is possible to deliver value and some targeted return within very short time frames. And again, having a sequence of these initiatives will in somehow complete the range of the data that is being governed, but it will also increasingly leverage the awareness and of the importance and the impact of data governance across the organization, slowly increasing the overall engagement, the trust levels on data, and eventually in some situations to turn the critics of this process into evangelists, and somehow paving the way to a more structured and strategic approach to enterprise-wide. And just these are a few of the principles I believe to be fundamental to the success of that of a data governance framework. First of all, a data strategy is necessarily a business strategy, and as any other asset in the organization, data's purpose again is to create a business value. So any data strategy must be oriented towards the organization's strategic priorities and its key business objectives. The business cases, okay. Having that strategic orientation, we can clearly focus on what is critical and what will give us the best results in the short term. Okay, and these should be the business cases for data strategy. And again, as I mentioned before, having 5, 6 of this to begin with, I think it's enough. But the critical point is that they should have always some very clear and achievable and measurable business objectives, and should be associated with stakeholders that are aware of the importance and impact of it in their processes. Start small, think big. It's always important to start this with an end in mind, and again, aligning with let's say a global data strategy, starting with a small targeted initiative where that impact and the value of data can be clearly identified, working with that business stakeholder who is very aware of how critical data is for their processes, will definitely help to leverage other initiatives, those success stories that I was mentioning before. To measure and communicate, it's important to not just the success stories, but all the results that you're achieving from this initiative, so that everybody is aware that things are moving and there is some successes being achieved. Business on the driver's seat, as I mentioned before, also data governance is a business function, not IT. Okay, so IT should be playing a supporting role, making sure that all the necessary technology is and the technical support is available for business. An agile mindset also that will allow us to bring results in those short time lapses. Data minimalism. Again, it's all the data that is by definition, all data that is being collected and processed in an organization should be so in a specific context, either it's operational, regulatory, or should be collected and analyzed and worked on with the specific end in mind and sustained by a business case, and also always aligned with the business objectives. And this is not always what happens, because we witness sometimes what I usually call data hoarding, where organizations try to collect every kind of data that they can and store it, not knowing exactly why. And this is also a problem when trying to you go and try to govern that that data, and this is very frequent when we see data lakes easily turning into data swamps. So it's very important to keep focus on the why, where data is being collected, and make sure that data has a business context behind it. Otherwise, yeah, it's just a risk and a cost. And finally, as I mentioned before, to integrate data governance with all those other tools that somehow complement them, from data quality to metadata management. So, just to conclude, well, for all of us that whose work focus directly on data, it's very clear that data is a critical and strategic asset for any organization. So getting the right information at the right time, giving it to the right people, it's essential to gain the edge when facing the market. And we also know that the quality and the availability of data to feed the business decision processes, often in real time, is also a priority and a critical challenge. As a failure to deliver can somehow develop into a disaster for decision making and implementing of business strategies. And data governance plays a critical role in all of this. Although having a data governance framework in place will not have an immediate impact on the business, it will improve trust, will improve transparency and reliability when meeting all the stakeholders' expectations. Okay, so although these messages may be clear for some, let's say that pitching data governance is still a very challenging task. Because most of the people see the world in a different perspective, either because their daily priorities and their short-term deadlines dictate their priorities, or even if data is one of the priorities, data governance is competing with analytics, with AI, and other data-related initiatives with some faster returns and and it's data governance keeps competing for attention with those, ending up being seen as something that is nice to have, but hardly have a priority, mostly because it's unclear how data governance will support their own priorities. So the case for data governance must be built around business value, having arguments around managing data assets or optimizing the value of data usually produce some excellent training sessions, but they hardly demonstrate how that value can be generated. So always keep in mind that, again, its purpose is to create business value. So the focus on those business priorities and business objectives is critical. So I don't think I brought anything new here. Maybe just in a more concise way, but I think the big conclusion is that every organization that uses data is already somehow doing some kind of data governance. So, and it's often done in a ad hoc way, not very efficiently, usually in a reactive way. So I think the value proposition that this approach has is to do it in a more effective way, proactively, and especially in a structured way. Okay, thank you.
Oh, that was a great presentation, Jose.
I hope I didn't take too long.
No, like you covered everything that we needed to know from talking of data management, implementing data governance, to the top 3 related data-related challenges your company faces, how we should know our data as an institution or an organization, to what data governance is and the framework. That was quite insightful. Thank you so much. And I see the participants are actually appreciative of the same. And yeah, before we close, there's a question from Sambuki. Sambuki is asking, he has 2 questions actually. What is data governance? What data governance career opportunities are available in East Africa market, current or futuristic? That is his first question. And the second question is asking, what resources, tools, and certifications will you recommend anyone who is considering a career around data governance? Yes, those are his 2 questions. Kindly.
Okay. Well, first of all, as for the work opportunities in East Africa, I think it's a growing market. You have already, let's say, 3 or 4 companies that have a very high maturity level, but I see a lot of work being done in this area, especially again with the awareness of the importance of data, with the rise of some new analytical applications, with the rise of new tools and technologies. The people are starting to understand that none of that brings much value if you can't manage the data that you have, and you can't deliver it with quality, knowing exactly what you have. This is one perspective. The other perspective is the perspective of security, data security. Okay, which is lately also has been having a huge important. So again, not knowing and not being able to manage what you have, it's very, very, very difficult to keep it safe. Okay, because you can only keep safe what you know you have. So not just on data governance, but also on the other areas of data management. I think there will be an increased demand for people who work in these areas. As for the start, I think there are 2 or 3 organizations that give certifications on this area. I think one of the good starting points is to look at the demo website, the AMA, and they have a very good overview of what is data management, and within data management, data governance. In fact, that definition that you showed us before was from the handbook from them. So that is a good starting point.
Yeah, sure. I also believe that when you look at data governance, there's something like a correlation with other areas, because this brings in IT, it brings in the policies, the processes, the laws, and actually the people who work within that space. So maybe I would say data governance stems from all related fields that touches on information security, how this information is going to be used by a business to leverage in the market, and even how they are going to, let's say, secure this information when you look at how, like, information security under cyber security, because there's an increase in cybercrime and all that. So data governance touches on all those perspectives, on data protection, cyber security, information security, yeah, and the technical and the tools that are used while securing this data, because we cannot separate those two.
Yeah, it has a central role, and it somehow relates all the other components. As you said, the cybersecurity example was a very good one. So it is central to any initiative, and it's also, I think, it is, the critical point to achieving success in every other area, being on security, being on analytics, because it's I think the foundation for any organization that wants to get the maximum of its data, increasing the value that they have, also decreasing the risks that they have, and the costs that you must start by trying to govern the data you have and understand how you can use it in a strategic way, let's say.
Okay, you had another question on the certifications and training. I would like to add on that and state that at Southend we also offer trainings on data protection and cyber security. So if you have an interest in that, kindly contact us. Our details are on our LinkedIn page and Facebook page, and also on our websites on the trainings and the periods in which you can get to choose the period in which you have to take your training from. Yeah. Any other question from our participants? Thank you for holding up for all this long. That was 2 hours, isn't a short time. Thank you for taking your time off your busy schedules to be with us today. And I'd say adios till next time. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jose. It was nice hosting you.